Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for having me here. Well, it's a lot of lights here. Let's take a second, and before we delve into the technology, and think about the life of celebs, of those famous people who, let's think about the day in their life when they wake up in the mornings through the day. Their life seems to be kind of perfect, and one of the reasons for that is not only they are usually wealthy and so on, but they have a huge staff around them, many people who take care about everything for them. From the very small things, which places to go to eat and when to go to eat, taking care about transportation if they need to go somewhere here in Israel or in any other place in the world, making all the reservations to the places they need to go, changing their schedule and so on and so forth. So, their life is pretty fun, easy. They don't have to think about all of those small things each and every moment, when to leave. Somebody is there to tell them, let's leave now to the next meeting. If something happens, they just reschedule what needs to be rescheduled, and so on and so forth. Now let's imagine that with all of these trends, and we've talked all morning around the capabilities that AI brings to us with the personalization, and with the fact that, we as humans really expect to get much more from this interaction with these smart systems that's surrounding us. Now let's imagine that when we put all of these things together, we can really build an assistant that can really change the way we live today, that really can provide to each and every one of us a virtualized assistant, one that really can bring us all of these capabilities and make our lives really easier. And when we combine all of this together, we can really get to that point. So that's the journey, and that's the vision that we started a few years ago when we saw these technology trends to really see how we can really change and impact the lives of each and every one of us. We've looked across multiple industries and multiple places throughout the life of each and every one of us where we could insert such an assistant to really make our life easier. Homes, it's obviously one of those places because we are spending a lot of time there. But as we all know, and today it's the first day at school, so we all already experienced that we spend quite a lot of time in traffic, driving and so on. So that's another place where we could introduce these capabilities. But if I want to kind of focus and really say some of the more advanced and capabilities that really can make that assistant really happen, and I highlighted there is the proactive capabilities. And what do I mean by that? So rather than me opening, multiple applications in the morning, for instance, opening Waze, opening the weather, maybe opening my calendar to see my schedule, checking up on my fuel level in the car, and maybe a few other things, and then getting to a conclusion when should I leave home, what I really would like is to throw all those or define a simple rule and just tell my assistant to let me know each and every morning when should I wake up and when should I leave home to just make in time to my first appointment, to my first meeting. And if I need to drop off my kids at school that morning, give me an extra time. Or if the weather is bad, or if I need to stop by and buy some fuel. That's really where we are heading, is to be able to offload those small and little things and make our life really much more enjoyable and focus on really the main things we want to accomplish. And have that assistant run somehow in the background and just keep tracking and monitoring those thousands and tens of thousands of events that continuously change throughout the day, and not me having to worry to check upon them. But those can continuously change, like traffic can change every minute, or weather can change, or anything like in my schedule can change. And I don't need to worry about those because I have a set of rules there that run in the background and continuously monitor and check. And if something changes, it would just alert me and change my schedule. So as I said, we've applied this in multiple industries and multiple places. That's why we also said it is a virtual assistant that can live and accompany you throughout the day, from the time you're leaving home, in the car, in your workplace, in the hotel if you're traveling, and so on and so forth. Let's see a quick video just to give you a sense of how this looks like in a car. And
I am so ready to feel that ocean air.
We've earned this weekend getaway.
Good afternoon.
Watson, start our trip.
Your calendar tells me you are headed to the seaside resort.
This car has an IBM Watson assistant.
Your reservations are confirmed.
Here, it's called Watson. But you can give yours any name. This solution is all about your brand and your customers.
It will take you 2 hours and 47 minutes to get there. Before you leave, my sensors tell me that the front passenger side tire pressure is low and should be serviced now. Would you like me to route you to the car dealership and let them know you're coming?
Yes, that's great.
Isn't it amazing what happens when you harness your data? When you're constantly learning about your customers, you can give them experiences that matter.
I have sent the dealership a message.
And we're talking about secure data. Data that's not sold or shared with anyone.
Restarting the fastest route to the resort.
I'm starving. Want to grab something to eat?
You know, I've been craving pizza.
Ooh. Watson, find us an Italian restaurant along our route.
I suggest Amor Mio. It's been rated 4 stars and you have it bookmarked.
Great suggestion. How far away is it?
Amor Mio is 45 minutes away.
Make a reservation for 1 hour from now.
Reservations have been confirmed for 6:30 p.m.
Thank you so much.
Like all good listeners, this assistant pays attention to context. And like any deft conversationalist, it can toggle between topics like recommendations, weather, calendar, email, and so much more.
Yeah, we'll be there in plenty of time.
It's the kind of smart assistant you get as part of a global ecosystem of connected apps and services.
Watson, resume our trip, please, and review my calendar for tomorrow.
For tomorrow, I see 2 spa appointments at the Seaside Resort for 10 a.m. and a meeting for third quarter planning at 11 a.m.
What, a Saturday meeting?
I must have scheduled it for the wrong date. Watson, reschedule the 11 a.m. appointment for Monday when everyone is available.
The meeting has been rescheduled for 2 p.m. on Monday.
This is a work-free weekend.
Are you ready to bring your brand to life? Because that is a journey worth taking.
Okay. So a few points of the things that we try to emphasize in this demonstration. The proactive capability that I mentioned earlier. So oftentimes we are driving and sometimes, you know, a small lamp lights up, maybe it's red or orange or something, and we have no clue what it means. Is it the engine going to break down? Should I stop now here? Should I go and service it immediately? Can I continue to my next meeting and take care of that later on? In best scenarios, you just stop on the side of the road, you open up the manual if you have it, look it up. If you find it, maybe you can and you understand what it means and take a decision. And oftentimes, you just call up a friend and ask, you know, somebody who understands more what to do. Can I continue or should I stop? So these are the things that, again, with one of our skills that takes care in just all of the car manual, with all of the knowledge about the car, we can intelligently answer and also guide the driver. Like in this case, it was a simple case of just a flat tire, whether they need to stop immediately, whether they can continue to the first meeting, can it wait to be fixed tomorrow, so on and so forth. So in this case, with a little bit of AI, we can ease the entire experience in the car. We've talked a lot about personalization, and I couldn't agree more that it is a critical capability, because when we interact with these systems, if it is not personalized to the way we want, to the things that we prefer, each and every interaction becomes very inefficient, and pretty soon we just stop using them. So there are multiple things that we can do in the car, and we are doing is learning the preferences of each and every one of us. what kind of restaurants I would like to go. There is no point in showing me all of the list of possible restaurants around me if I don't like a lot of them, and I have certain preferences to go to Italian places or Indian food or whatever it is. Or if I like to hear music on my way back to home to relax a little bit, it would be nice if the assistant can learn that rather than trying to suggest me to do something else, right? Or on my way to work, I usually prefer to hear the news to just get up to speed on what's going on. So it's all of those small things that I want the assistant to just learn about my preferences from all of the interactions that I had with, and maybe also information that's outside of that. Imagine you're coming to your hotel room, and oftentimes you come in, it's either the room is too hot because nobody turned on the air condition, you get in tired after a day, maybe you traveled a long way from here to the US or somewhere else. Or on the other hand, you come into a room and the room is just freezing, and it's exactly not what you want or expect the room to be. Yeah, it's freezing here. Okay, I think they'll change the temperature in a minute. But that's really the personalization you expect, that if you're loyal to one of those brands, it would learn what are your preferences. So setting up the room to the way that you actually like it, or suggesting if it knows that you missed to have any time for dinner and you took a late flight, maybe bring in some food from one of the things that you prefer and just come and suggest that to you, as well as maybe set up your alarm clock and just reserve for you the gym for the next day in the morning. So there are many little things in the personalization in each and every things of the day that we do. I'm not going to delve into the architecture of this framework and how one can build these assistants. I'll just maybe mention one of those elements that at the beginning, which is the routing capability. So one of those things that we are investing is that you can speak to this assistant on multiple topics in multiple domains. So you can inquire about a restaurant and figure out if it is really the restaurant you're interested in. And much like we as human beings, we can stop in the middle of that conversation and switch topic to talk about, I don't know, the weather or a movie or whatever it is. And after a few seconds, minutes, we just go back to the previous discussion, and we as humans remember the context of the previous discussion because it was just a few minutes ago, and we continue from the same point that we left it. So those are the capabilities that we are building into the assistant with that notion of that context, where we preserve the state of the discussion. Not only that, but all of these multiple topics that you can discuss with can share knowledge among them. So when you're inquiring about a restaurant and you figure out that you want to go to that nice Italian place, you've seen in the movie, she just says something like, take me there, without having to explicitly say what's the address of that restaurant, because those skills will just communicate through the context and pass in those kind of information that are needed so that the entire interaction is really seamless and much more like human. Let me kind of conclude. I mean, there are multiple capabilities I discussed that are already in this framework and allow us to build very quickly these kind of assistants. But there is a lot of challenges that we at the research lab here in Israel, in Haifa, are still looking at. And I listed a few of them. I'll mention some because each of these is a whole new discussion. One of the challenges when we speak with our customers, for instance, is how do they preserve their brand? As you know, brand oftentimes is recognized by their logo, by their website, a lot of visual things that you see and reflect that brand. When we see the changes in this world, when more and more of the interaction happen by voice or a mixture of voice and visual, it is a new challenge of how to preserve the brand. What does it mean to even have a brand in this digital world where you're interacting a lot of times with these digital assistants and not human beings? So that's kind of an open question. What does it mean to have your brand and how it is exposed and expressed when you talk about these areas? I already hinted that multimodal is one of those areas. It's not only by voice or touch, but it's really the mixture of multiple modalities, including gestures. And it's not only allowing to mix and match of those, but coming back to the first point, personalization is really understanding each and every one of us what's our preferred way to interact with the system in a certain situation. It might be that sometimes I prefer to type in something, sometimes I'll speak to it, and sometimes I'll use some gesture and a combination, and those could be actually interleaved. And for the same task, I would use at different points different gestures or a combination or voice and text and so on. I think one last point I do want to touch is there are a lot of moral issues and ethical issues. When we introduce these assistants that are meant to support our life in multiple ways, we have to also think about making sure that it makes no mistakes, doesn't disclose any private data, as well as if there are elderly people who interact with these systems, sometimes they might ask for help, explicitly or implicitly. They just might hint that maybe they don't feel well. So there are a lot of these ethical questions that you may say, okay, the assistant was not designed to help on this situation, but I think that we as companies that impact the way that society interacts with this system need to start to think about also supporting those kind of issues. So that's another whole area of research. Again, be happy to continue the discussion around these topics later on. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm Yariv. I work on Google Assistant in Google Zurich. So first, thank you for having me. It's great to speak in Israel from time to time. I want to share with you one of my passion and what I'm excited, one of the things I'm excited most about AI. And so I'm a product manager, and which means that I was always excited about products and technology since I was a little kid, but I was especially fascinated about these inventions, you know, radio, airplanes, cars, CPUs, computers, that completely changed the life of people across the planet to an extent that you couldn't imagine more. How was it before? And like you couldn't remember, even if you went through that paradigm shift. So 20 years ago, when I started my career, I felt extremely lucky actually to go through one of these, and this is, you know, the internet revolution. So within very short time, we moved from a physical world to the digital one. Because when I was a student, I spent a lot of time in the library summarizing or photocopying books. My kids don't do that anymore. And what was especially amazing about that revolution was the scale and rate of change. Within very few years, we got hundreds of millions of services and information sources, reaching hundreds of millions of people, which again, you know, created new industries, new giants, new apps, new experiences that did not exist before. And among other things, two key things that enabled that were these platforms of scale. So if you think about it, within the browser and the search engine made it extremely easy for any person to access any website. So very easy to put a website out there and very easy to access one, find it, and interact with it. So I felt, you know, of course, very lucky, and I thought, you know, this is once in a lifetime. But then less than 10 years after, we have even a bigger revolution coming. This is the mobile one. And, you know, the device changed, not so much. Okay, it became smaller, and someone cut the cables. And maybe a few sensors were added, you know, camera, microphone, GPS, you know, nothing that seems huge. But it completely changed the experience across 3 dimensions. One, 10x more people could use it. Why? Because there are continents that were not connected to landlines, but they could very easily create all these towers. So suddenly, from hundreds of millions in the US and Western Europe, you have billions of people across the earth accessing information and changing their life. The other thing, of course, is how much we're using it. Before that, you need to be at home or at work to use it at the computer, and of course, it's a shared device. Suddenly, this is becoming the biggest addiction problem and the device we use most, right? We move it all the time, we chat all the time, we're connected to information, to email, right? Like, in terms of how much we're using it, not just how many people. But the real cool thing is that once you change the device and add a little bit of interactions, new things come that did not exist before. Selfie did not exist until, you know, 10 years ago. Checking in a place, messaging, navigating in the car, all of the things that we're currently doing, all of the biggest app, Instagram, Snapchat, all of the things did not exist before this device came to be. And again, what allowed this scale was platforms. You had on the hardware side, you had these towers that were very easily to put, but then became the smart OSs and the app stores that allowed developers to very easily access billions across the planet. I believe that now we're in a similar, but even bigger paradigm shift and revolution powered by AI, and I like to call it the paradigm shift to natural UI, natural user interface. And I think that what is happening is that through the power of AI, we're starting to interact with machines in the same way we're interacting with each other. I'm talking to you, I'm showing you stuff, and I'm not talking to you in queries. Like I go on a search engine, I'm talking using context, personalization, humor. I show you stuff, I refer to it, and you understand. And of course, you understand very complex stuff, and anyone understands that. And so I feel like, in a way that we're moving from an era where we had to learn how to use computers, there are Windows and docs kind of courses, to an era where computers are learning how to interact with us. Okay, that's cool, and there's a bunch of geeks in this room that are very excited about that. Why should the world care? Okay, so we can talk to computers, nice. So if you think again about these two paradigm shifts I mentioned before, the same thing is happening. One, natural UI, of course, is the most natural user interface out there. It doesn't matter how old you are, how educated you are, where did you grow up, how technophobic you are. Everyone, unfortunately, knows to express what they want very easily, and they can interact in that way. But it's also the most robust interface. It's very easy. Look, we've been talking about AI. I can say I'm hungry, I want to go. I can order a place in a restaurant, I can order a place in a hotel. Everything within a very efficient and simple UI. So again, if we thought that we went 10x to the amount of people that can use the technology, this definitely gets us to a lot more users that can make a lot more usage of technology. The second thing is, how much will we use it? So when we moved to something that is in a corner to something that is with you, we started, using it much more. Now imagine that device goes away. It becomes ambient. There's just microphone around and maybe cameras, safety and security and privacy, of course. But it's everywhere. You just can ask a question or state something, and it hears you, it understands you, it responds to you. So new use cases will emerge. And now that these are integrated in all of the Internet of Things, from washing machines to cars, to microphones, to headphones, to TVs, to smart displays, to clothes, to everything, right? So just by adding a few sensors to the phone, we came up with a few exciting new uses that we use all the time. So imagine when you have all these devices that are connected and can understand you and can react, what type of new uses we could expect from everyone. However, in order, right, the big question is, okay, so how do we scale it? How do we make it super, super easy for developers to build these experiences and make it super, super easy to get into people that can interact with it in a natural way? And this is where stuff like Google Assistant, or Watson, or Cortana, or other technologies that people here talked about and presented are coming, right? This is exactly kind of the new OS, the OS of Internet of Things, of AI, where it's like natural language understanding, context understanding, personalization, proactiveness, fulfillment. These are the new elements of the new world. So now, I will try to do a live demo. Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. What can I help you with?
So cool. Let's say I want to go to, and I heard there is some kind of a museum that shows the Dead Sea Scrolls that I'm super excited about, and I want to ask it in a way that someone that is not, good in technology would go and ask. What's the name of the museum that shows the Dead Sea Scrolls?
I did a web search and found this museum, Israel Museum.
What are the opening hours?
The Israel Museum, Jerusalem is open today from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Where is it located?
The address for the Israel Museum, Jerusalem is Derek Ruppin, Jerusalem.
Can I get there by public transportation?
The best way to get to the Israel Museum, Jerusalem by public transport is to catch 19 departing at 2:05 p.m. from Hakovshim, Carmelite, a 4-minute walk from your...
So what we've seen here is actually, one, I was talking in natural language, complete language. I was actually referring, I never said the name of the museum. I referred it contextually. It continued to understand. The funny thing, at some point, it did not completely hear me. It gave me some wrong stuff because I thought I'm asking something about it. But then when I fixed again, I just asked where is it located, was kind of being able to understand. In a similar way, we're talking a little bit about education. We want to be able to answer questions in a way that kids would ask in a classroom. So for example, this is a question my kids asked recently. They were studying about the human body. How many bones does the human body have?
206 bones. According to YouTube, it is composed of 270 bones at birth. This total decreases to 206 bones by adult.
What is the smallest one?
Stapes. Here's a summary from Wikipedia.
But let's see now, although network is not great. So what I've seen now, right, so I am asking questions, I can refer again. I get data that is not just voice, but also additional photos and videos if I want. But you know that people are never asking. This is like, kind of demo. Let's ask like a real question the way people think. And this is like, I was trying to remember the name of a book. Let's hope it will work in this network. What is the name of a book about Nordic mythology where there is a kid that is the son of a god and he goes to Valhalla and meets a bunch of other heroes?
I searched the web and found this book, The Sword of Summer.
So what you've seen here now is super slow and annoying network, but within 500 milliseconds, I asked like a super complicated natural language questions with a lot of garbage in it. It managed somehow to get in this, half a second all the way to the other part of the world. No one has ever in the history of humankind or the earth or the universe asked that query. Ask a bunch of computers, and what we're trying here is to come with one answer, not 10 blue links, and it actually nailed it. So basically, this is like, to me, the amazing of both understanding the world, knowing what this book is about, but also being able to interact with people over slow networks. One of the cool things, of course, is voice, right? As you go to voice, you can suddenly do all sorts of things in the classroom and other places that you couldn't do otherwise with a book. Like, my question I always wanted to ask, how do you pronounce Argentinosaurus?
That's pronounced Argentinosaurus.
How do you spell it?
Argentinosaurus is spelled A-R-G.
Yeah, stop it. It's too long. But the point is, it actually takes you through experiences that otherwise you cannot have any other way. And the cool thing, I don't know if you noticed, but like all the time it first hears me and then it like shows a bunch of wrong things, but then it kind of fixes it. Actually, the voice, speech recognition is good, but it does speech recognition fixing on the fly based on what kind of makes sense as a question or not. Let's try another thing that you can only do with voice. So I live in Switzerland, and German is a hard language. How do you say in German, hey, I have a problem, can you help me?
Hey, ich habe ein Problem. Kannst du mir helfen?
What about in Russian?
Эй, у меня проблема, ты можешь мне помочь?
So the cool thing again, right? So one of the key things in artificial intelligence is to understand intent. What is it that you're trying to say? Right? So I said, how do you say in German? It kind of figured out, I need to do some translation intent, then managed to get the sentence out of it. Then I said, what about in Russian? And I don't know how it works, but damn, it's like magic, right? And of course we can do So, of course, we have seen that we understand it interacts with capabilities, interacts with the world, interacts with natural language, but of course we want to interact with also devices and things we use as we go to the Internet of Things. So I don't have here a self-driving car or some cool drone, so I can do the most important thing you can do on a phone. Take a selfie. Okay, smile everyone. I will definitely remember this one. But of course, the other important thing is that we want the assistant to know me and be able to refer to my world, right? So, I can show me my flights and, where's my hotel and stuff like that. But actually, my real need when I travel is the same, although it's like fun. It happens both in the source and destination land. You come back to the airport, you have no idea where you parked, right? And yesterday I went out drinking somewhere in Tel Aviv, no idea where I parked. So actually, you can actually say like this, where did I park my car?
Here's the picture I saved when you told me where you parked.
So the cool thing is all I did is I say, hey, remember this is where I parked my car, and it understands the intent. And then the nice thing about it, it actually remembered not just the photo, but it actually understood, okay, this is very important to remember the location. And then it pinpointed, oh, you lost the, yes, that's nice. Yeah, we lost the thing. That's cool. But it showed me a map. One last thing is, sometimes understanding what you say is just not enough. For example, I go around and I see this picture on a school trip and I want to ask about it, so there is nothing I can say. So the thing also has eyes, and you cannot see because presentation froze, but let's make it a voice query. So I open the eyes now. Actually, now it looks at it. Who painted this?
The Duke and Duchess of Urbino was created by Piero della Francesca.
When did it paint?
The Duke and...
No. Anyhow, so we're out of time, and what I showed you basically is really the state of the art of presentation technology and AI. And within AI, we can actually do a lot. We've seen natural language, context understanding, understanding my own personal, understanding of intent, understanding of devices, understanding of apps, ability to do a lot of cool stuff, understanding of images and question about images, everything in real time. There's so much more. One of the cool things is that we expose all of these capabilities as a third-party platform. Because what we want at the end is for you or developers to build platform using these capabilities, using that as a stack as an OS, not that we're the client. So actually, already this exists as an API, and the same experience that I showed for what Google can do, you can actually do education and other applications that are interacting with users through that capability. So thank you for being patient, and thank you for having fun.
Good afternoon, Mati.
Hi, Elon.
So before we start, can you introduce yourself?
My name is Mati. I'm the product manager for Mikan. We have a chatbot that arranges meetings for people and runs your calendar. It's been live for around 3 years now. It's been arranging meetings for tens of thousands of people all over the world, organizing their calendars. And they like it. We like it.
I also want to add, you're the manager of the Facebook group, The Rise of the Machines, Aliyat HaMechonot, which deals with AI. And where the intro says, the future is happening now. When the robots arrive, we want to be on the right side, theirs. So many of the examples of the Turing test I took from your Facebook group. And I wanted to discuss with you about, we talked about smart machines and talking with machines, and all the companies put lots of energies by creating personalities for chatbots and talking machines. What do you do in Mikan for doing this, and what do you think the importance of this?
Yes, so you have to remember when you have a machine that talks, it doesn't have any buttons, and it doesn't have a color or a way to, a special way that it looks. I think the guy from IBM spoke about branding, so there's no way to brand if you can't even show your logo. I mean, if you're talking through Alexa or some machine, all you have is this cylinder that looks the same for everyone. It has the same voice. So you have to ask yourself, in what way can I be special in this world of other machines? In what way can my machine be a little bit different? And the answer for that is you have to really choose your words very, very carefully to make sure that you are coming out as one specific personality. So this is something that technology cannot solve. Like we saw a lot of professors here and really smart people, but the fact is, for getting personality right, you actually need someone who is a writer or someone who is knowledgeable in telling interesting stories or in coming out, you can say the same thing in, 1,000 different ways, but what would be the really interesting way of saying this that would really get your message across to whoever you're talking to. It could be a client, it could be a student, or whoever. And also you have to remember that this information that you're conveying is coming from, like, I don't know, 1,000 different sources. So some of them is written by a human, and some of them is written by another human, and some of them is coming from, I don't know, Wikipedia. And you can't, like, talk to someone and, you know, be like someone who has 7 different personalities. It would be a really weird experience for you to talk to someone who is using this kind of language, and then in the next sentence is using a different kind of language. So the way to tie all those things together and make them seem like one, you're talking to one personality, is by deciding what your personality is going to be like before you even start working on your new machine that's going to do something.
So you talked about consistency and branding. And when we talk about like using talking machines in the world of learning and teaching and education, do you think that it's the same thing for creating a personality that teaches better?
Yes, of course. I mean, if you're, I'm looking back at my school time, I can remember my teachers, and maybe I maybe remember their first name, and I remember this guy was really the evil teacher, and that one was someone who's always listening to me and always trying to get me right. Or so personality here is really important. If, for example, in our project, we were trying to reach out for early adopters first. So we had a lot. He was telling a lot of geek jokes and quoting Space Odyssey or quoting Big Lebowski all the time. So, and also, you know, when your machine is doing its job, it has to be very efficient. I want to ask you, what's the temperature? You would say, I don't know, 30 degrees or -5 here in this place. But when your machine doesn't know how to answer correctly, this is where the personality comes out. So when you say, I don't know, you can say, sorry, I didn't understand what you meant. Or you can say, I don't know, if I was on another planet, I would understand what you were saying. Or come up with some joke or quote someone or come out of the situation back in an interesting way. This is where your personality comes out.
Mm-hmm. And one last question. Where do you see this world in the upcoming few years going in creating personalities for smart machines?
So a lot of people are talking about, oh my God, the machines are going to replace us. There's not going to be any jobs left. But the way I see it, this is going, and well, at least in the next 10 years, I guess, is machines not going to replace anyone, but they are going to really empower us to do things. You can think about it if, you know, the first time you bought a dishwasher, right? And, you know, the first time you washed the dishes for you, it was like you said, oh my God, this is magic. The second time it's, okay, I no longer have to do the dishes. Now I'm free to do the other things that I wanted to do, and I had to wash the dishes instead. So this is what machines are going to do. They're going to take out some of the chores that we don't like. They're going to make us really quick in doing some things that we used to be really slow at. Going to take out all the boring stuff that we don't want to do, and they're going to free up a lot of time for everyone to do the more high-end things, the more interesting things that machines are still not capable of doing.
Thank you, Mari. And again, I want to recommend for all of you to join Aliyat HaMechonot Facebook group.
Aliyat HaMechonot.
It's very interesting and fun, and thank you, Mati.
Thank you.
So, can Alexa or other voice assistant change learning or help you in school? Can you use them in classroom? Depends who you ask. Here you can see a tweet by Bill Fitzgerald. He asked one of the representatives of Amazon if Alexa should be used in a classroom, and the answer was no. But, so if you ask Amazon, Alexa is not intended to be used in classroom, but if you ask many, many teachers around the world, Alexa has a very unique value for learning. And this is, of course, if your students speak English, you can use it for class management, to set a timer, to pick a random number, to set reminders. You can use it for literacy, for teaching math, and for social skills. But what if your students don't speak English? Well, you can use voice assistants to teach them English in a very unique and engaging way. You can encourage their confidence by speaking to a machine instead of speaking to a human being. You can expand their vocabulary, and you can practice their pronunciation of English words. So now I want to show you some of the things we did in class. So the skill we used for Amazon Alexa, we partnered with Pretzel Labs, which is a studio for voice games for kids. They created a Kids Court, award-winning app for kids. And we pilot in 5 schools in Petah Tikva, Sde Boker, Kasser Asir, Ma'ale Adumim, and Tel Aviv, in grade 5 to 7. And the skill is called group vacation. The first part is when kids tell Alexa about themselves. Alexa asks them, what is your favorite color? If you were an animal, would you be a butterfly or a shark? What is your favorite food? Who is your favorite singer? Etc. And then the skill calculates their personality of the group and decides where they should go, where the next vacation is going to be. So let's see a little video of kids getting the message where they're going to go. Okay, just a minute. Okay, so the kids are going to England and they're very excited, believe me. So this is the part where the Alexa decides for the kids where they should go, and they get a country. It can be Thailand, Kenya, India, England, and then they starting to ask Alexa things about their destination. So they ask Alexa about the capital city, the flag, the population, the currency, the language, and the weather, and they learn. So this app actually integrates students talking about themselves and telling Alexa about themselves, and using Alexa to research on their favorite destination. And we can see among the kids we piloted in, we can see almost everyone thought Alexa understood Alexa well. They thought Alexa understood them. They enjoyed very much talking to Alexa. And most of them want to continue to learn and study with Alexa. And the pedagogical strength of this pilot is first the opportunity to practice, the ongoing dialogue with the smart machine, the autonomous space without judgment, and the need to correct themselves. Alexa doesn't correct you for grammar, but if you say a word in English Alexa cannot understand, you should say it again in order to get Alexa to understand you. So this was our pilot using Alexa and smart machines. In the next school year, we're going to expand this pilot to many other schools, and we're hoping to do a meaningful and engaging pilot using smart machines in education. Thank you.